Have you ever just stopped and wondered what really makes people tick? Why we think and feel and do the things we do? Well, it turns out there's no single simple answer. To really understand the whole person, we have to look at them from a bunch of different angles at once. So let's start untangling this whole thing together. So let me ask you this. What do you think is the main driver behind who you are? Is it that little voice inside your head, the actual physical wiring of your brain, the culture and people you grew up with? Or is it all about your biggest dreams and goals? Just keep that question in the back of your mind as we dive in. And just so you know, the framework we're using for this explainer comes from a really fantastic psychology lesson by the Flying Wings online school. They give us a super clear way to break all this down. To really tackle that big question, we can't just pick one thing. We need a whole toolkit. And a great way to think about it is like having 4 different pairs of glasses, or lenses. Each one is going to let us see human behavior in a totally unique and really valuable way. All right, let's get that toolkit open and check out our 4 lenses one by one. First up, we've got the humanistic perspective. This lens is super optimistic. It basically says that deep down, we all have this built-in drive to grow, to get better, and to find meaning in our lives. The focus here isn't on what's wrong with someone, but on what's right and how we can help them become the best possible version of themselves. So this idea is built on a few really powerful concepts. You've got self-actualization, that's the lifelong journey to become everything you're capable of being. Then there's unconditional positive regard, which is this amazing idea from the psychologist Carl Rogers. It's all about accepting someone completely, no strings attached. Ultimately, it's about recognizing our built-in dignity, our strengths, and our incredible ability to bounce back from stuff. Okay, next up, let's swap lenses and put on our cognitive glasses. Now, if the humanistic view is about the heart and our inner drive, the cognitive view is all about the mind. It looks at how we think, how we remember things, solve problems, and make decisions. It kind of sees the brain as this incredibly powerful computer. And what's so cool about the cognitive perspective is how practical it is. The core idea is simple, but it's huge. Our thoughts have a direct impact on our actions. This one idea has given us amazing tools, from better ways to learn in school to super effective therapies for things like anxiety, where the whole goal is to understand and change our negative thought patterns. All right, time for our third lens, the biological perspective. This one gets right down to the nitty-gritty, the actual hardware. It says that everything psychological is, at the same time, biological. So to really understand behavior, we got to look at things like brain chemistry, our DNA, our nervous system, the whole shebang. What this really shows us is that undeniable link between our mind and our body. You know that feeling of happiness or sadness? It isn't just some abstract thing. It's a real physical flood of chemicals in your brain. This lens is the foundation for so much of modern medicine and neuroscience, helping us see how our genes and brain activity influence pretty much everything about us. And for our last lens, we're going to zoom all the way out. The sociocultural perspective reminds us that, hey, none of us live in a bubble. It looks at all those powerful and often invisible forces outside of us, our culture, our family, our friends, and all the rules of society that are constantly shaping who we become. And this perspective is just so important for understanding the world. It helps explain why something totally normal in one culture might seem really strange in another. It makes us think about the influence of our friends and social pressures, and you know what? It pushes us to have a deeper respect for diversity and for other people's experiences. Okay, let's just take a beat and see how this all works. So if you want to build confidence, the humanistic lens is your go-to. If you're stressed about an exam, the cognitive lens has the tools. The biological lens helps you connect the dots between, say, sleep and your mood. And the sociocultural lens, well, that helps us understand huge things like gender roles. It's so clear that each one gives us a totally unique and crucial piece of the puzzle. So we have our toolkit. Now for the fun part. Let's actually put these lenses to work with a real-world example, one that I'm guessing a lot of us can relate to: student stress. So let's picture a student who is just feeling totally overwhelmed. They've got no motivation, they're anxious, and they're just struggling to keep their head above water. How would each of our lenses explain what's going on here? Okay, let's start with the cognitive lens. A psychologist using this approach would zoom right in on that student's thoughts. They're probably caught in this nasty loop of negative self-talk, thinking stuff like, I'm definitely going to fail this, or I'm just not smart enough. The problem isn't really the schoolwork, it's the beliefs about the schoolwork. Now watch this. Let's swap to the biological lens. And bam, a completely different story. Here, the focus is all on the body. Maybe the constant stress has thrown their cortisol, the stress hormone, all out of whack. Or maybe, just maybe, they have a genetic tendency that makes them a bit more prone to anxiety. And what about the humanistic lens? It looks right past the symptoms and asks a different question. What does this person need to really thrive? Kind of like a plant that isn't getting enough sun or water. Maybe this student just feels disconnected, or they need more support and encouragement to feel like they can actually grow. And finally, let's pull that camera all the way back with a sociocultural lens. It starts asking, what's going on around this student? Is there just massive pressure from their family to get perfect grades? Are they trying to live up to some crazy cultural expectation about success? The stress might actually be coming from the outside in. So, which one is it? The negative thoughts, the hormones, the unmet needs, or the social pressure? Well, here's the real magic. You don't have to choose. In fact, these lenses all work together. Think about it. Changing your thoughts, that's a cognitive strategy, can actually lower your stress hormones, which is a biological change. Because here's the single most important takeaway. There is no one right answer. There isn't a magic bullet explanation for why we do what we do. Each lens just reveals one part of a much bigger, much more interesting picture. So what does all this mean for you? Well, using these perspectives isn't just some homework assignment. Each one gives you a vital piece of the puzzle. When you start to see the world and other people this way, it can build incredible empathy. And for yourself, it gives you a much richer toolkit for understanding your own challenges and building up your resilience. And that brings us to this really powerful final thought from our source material. True understanding isn't just about facts and figures. It's this beautiful blend of compassion for the person, solid science to understand how it all works, and a deep, deep respect for all the different backgrounds that make us who we are. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. As you think about your own life, your wins, your struggles, what drives you, which of these lenses helps you make the most sense of it all? Is it the cognitive, the biological, the humanistic, or the sociocultural? Just thinking about that, well, that's the first step to seeing the whole amazing picture.